Okay, now that you've gotten the basics down, I'll kind of want to go over a couple of these examples that sometimes give students a little bit of a challenge. In this example, we see this is all x's, and again with pulling out the GCF, you start with one parentheses. Your GCF comes on the outside. Since they all have an x in common, we can pull out an x. Now this is very important to understand. When you pull out a variable and the different all the variables have different exponents, you always pull out the smallest exponent because that is the greatest that they have in common. I know that kind of sounds like opposite of how your instincts would work, but what these all have in common factor-wise would be x to the first. These are all divisible by x to the first. So you pull out the least exponent. This one's understood to have an exponent of 1, so that's what we're going to pull out. Now, when we get our three terms in parentheses, we get that by dividing each of these terms by the GCF. Now, remember, when you divide same variable, when you have the same base, you subtract their exponents. So this is an understood 1. So my first term here is going to be x squared. I'm going to bring down a plus. X squared divided by x to the first is x to the first. And anything divided by itself is 1. So this is the final answer. Anytime you factor, you can always check by multiplying it back out. The principle for multiplying same bases is you add the exponents. So notice x to the first times x squared does give you x cubed. X to the first times x to the first, 1 plus 1 makes 2. X to the first times itself is x. So that's how you do that one. Okay, in this example, we're going to talk about how to pull out a negative. So when your leading term, that's the first term of your polynomial, has a negative in front, we like to pull that out. So I'm going to have a negative for sure in my GCF. This time I'm only going to have two terms in parentheses because I only have two terms to start with. And notice that 6 goes into both 6 and 18, so we're going to pull out a 6. And notice that they both have x's, so we're going to pull out an x. Now, negative 6x squared divided by negative 6x, remember that a negative divided by a negative is a positive. The 6's would cancel, and x squared divided by x is just x. Okay? Now, negative 18x divided by negative 6x, again, a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So that's the main difference when you pull out a negative, is that your signs end up changing. So 18 divided by 6 is 3, and x divided by x does cancel. Again, if you're unsure, you can always check this by distributing the negative 6x to both terms, and you would get the same as your original.